Good evening and welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this public hearing tonight. My name is Ryan Blazik. I'm with EGLE's Environmental Support Division. I'm just going to be helping to moderate this public hearing. This is a hearing for expansion and reconfiguration of the Torch River boating access site in Milton Township, Antrim County. But before we get too far, I just have a couple things to go through tonight. First off, this is kind of our agenda for the evening. I'm going to go through a quick introduction. That's what we're doing right now. And then the big thing to keep in mind is that this hearing tonight is kind of going to be in two parts. The first part is an informational session. That's where the applicant has an opportunity to present on the proposed project and will provide information on it. And then after that informational session, you'll have a chance to ask questions related to the application. And then after we get through that question and answer session, which should take us till about 6:30, we're going to move on to the ways to submit an official comment. And then we're going to go through the actual hearing portion. That's where you'll have an opportunity to make a statement for the record, and we'll go through how to do that later. Everybody will have an opportunity to make a statement, and we'll be here doing that until all statements are done. And we'll also go through who to contact with further questions in case we don't get to your question tonight. All right, a couple other logistical things. Just so you're aware, our lines are going to be muted during the hearing. That is, of course, unless you ask a question verbally or unless you're giving your statement. But we will do that later. We're not going to call on any raised hands until we get to the question and answer portion of tonight. However, you can type in a question at any time using the Q&A box in the Zoom toolbar. And we'll walk you through how we're going to go through the question and answer session and how we're going to go through making statements for the hearing tonight here in a little bit. And then also, just so you're aware, we are recording this hearing. The hearing will be on our YouTube channel here in a few days. So you'll be able to forward it on or watch it again if you like, if you so choose. All right, at this time, I'd like to invite our other EGLE staff on the line to turn their cameras on and introduce themselves.
Yeah, welcome everyone. I'm Joseph Haas, District Supervisor for the Cadillac and Gaylord field offices with the EGLE Water Resources Division. I supervise field staff covering the 22 counties in northern Lower Peninsula, specifically the Water Resource Division regulatory resource programs, including Part 301 in the lakes and streams, which is particularly relevant to this site and this proposal, Part 303 wetlands protection, Part 325 Great Lakes submerged lands, and a few others, critical dunes, high-risk erosion and such. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to be here this evening. Carrie, take it away.
Hi, I'm Carrie Kent. I am the environmental quality analyst in the Gaylord District office. I'm responsible for all of those programs Joe just listed for Antrim County, and I expand up into Charlevoix and Emmett counties as well for critical dunes and high-risk erosion areas.
Okay, perfect. Before we move on, anything you want to say about the project before I move on to the informational session?
Yeah, as Ryan mentioned earlier in his introduction, our purpose for being here tonight is really to hear your comments regarding the reconfiguration and the improvement of the existing Torch River boating access site that is located at the southern end of Torch Lake and the mouth of the Torch River.
Perfect. Thank you, Carrie. And thanks, Joe, for your introduction as well. We're going to move kind of on to the informational session, and the representative to present the project is Christy Summers with Beckett and Rader Incorporated. It looks like Christy, you are unmuted on our end. Feel free to unmute yourself. And the way we'll do this is I have your slides here. If you just want to give your presentation, let me know when to switch slides. And then it'd be great if you can keep it to about 10 minutes at the longest so that we can get into the Q&A when you're done. It'd be appreciated.
Okay, sure thing, Ryan. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
Great. Okay, yeah, go right ahead. Good evening, everybody. As Ryan said, my name is Christy Summers. I'm with Beckett and Rader, and we were retained by DNR to prepare a site plan for this project. you can see the slide on the screen is depicting the existing conditions. North is up on the plan. To the right or to the east is Torch Lake. And to the south of the project site is Cherry Avenue. To the east of the project site is Southwest Torch Lake Drive. And then to the southwest of that corner is what we refer to as the overflow site. It's not really part of the EGLE application, but it is part of the project. So you'll see it on the site plan. But the site, proper that is adjacent to Torch Lake is this, relatively small, tight site. Here in the corner, there is even, a lot within our site, the Bayside real estate office that we are working around. You may be familiar with the existing launch site there in the southeast corner, where it's just basically, a pull off of the roadway just past the bridge. There are a couple of informal parking spaces and a launch site. It's very tight, kind of just enough room to get in and maneuver, launch, and then leave. And unfortunately, what happens a lot of times is that folks kind of wait and stack on the bridge, waiting for other launchers to do their thing and leave. And so that contributes to what is already, a pretty heavy traffic situation just due to other activities in the area that already exist. So we're pretty excited about being able to expand into the property that DNR acquired that basically goes around the real estate site. There is both the lodge area to the north and then the former gas station to the south and west. So I think if you want to go ahead to the next slide, we have some photos, but while you do that, I'll mention that, some of the difficulties of the site are, a high water table, the fact that it is tight, and, as both the existing launch site and the overflow site exist, they're pretty informal. So it's not really clear how to maneuver through them or, how exactly to use them. This is some photos of the existing launch site. You can see where folks are launching currently. The lower right photo is taking a picture in front of Bayside Real Estate, back looking over the bridge at the drive approach to the existing launch site, and then some of the shoreline. Go ahead to the next slide. And then more photos of the existing conditions. We have an existing stone wall on our launch site, on our proposed site. And some of that will be removed to accommodate the new launch. There's this existing kind of pier out into the water that you can see in the upper left slide, and that will also be removed. And then you can see in the lower left, that's just kind of looking across the site once the former lodge was removed, looking north to the neighboring property, North Winds. And then in the lower right, looking back towards the Cherry Avenue intersection from Southwest Torch Lake Drive. Go ahead. And then some more photos of existing conditions. This is more of the overflow site, where you can see, just basically a gravel lot, kind of not any indication of where the drive approach is because it's kind of a free-for-all how you enter the site. And then looking across from kind of Johnny's Porch Riviera to the proposed main site. You can see Torch Lake in the background there. Go ahead. And then this is our proposed site plan, the illustrative rendering of that. North is still up on this plan, so same orientation as the first drawing that you saw, Cherry Avenue to the south, Southwest Torch Lake Drive to the east there. You can see that we're no longer entering the site from Cherry Avenue. There will be no drive approach to our site from Cherry Avenue, being that it's the more heavily traveled route. It is preferred by both, the Highway Administration and MDOT to, move ingress and egress to a less traveled street. So you can see that that is happening off of Southwest Torch Lake Drive. Circulation within the lot is happening in a one-way pattern clockwise. So you enter kind of to the north in that drive approach. You can see arrows on the pavement showing how people will enter, circulate around. There's 3 lanes as you circulate around. That allows folks to pull around, back up. They can prep there for the launch activity, back into the launch site. And this is, further north than the existing launch site, so a little bit away from the mouth of the river. And then we have parking that is available to those who launch and park within the lot. We have about 22 22 trailerable spaces. So not a lot, but definitely a lot more than exists there right now. And then what's happening in the southeast corner of the site where the existing launch is will be a carry down launch. So we have about 7 parking spaces that folks with regular cars can circulate into and park, and then take a canoe or kayak down to the carry down launch site there. Across at the overflow site, we're able to accommodate about 14 trailerable spaces. We have designated that will also circulate one way coming in off of West Torch River Road, and then exiting out to the north of that site onto Cherry Avenue. So definitely a more organized circulation and parking arrangement there at the overflow site. Will be very clear that it's for, boat trailer or vehicles with boat trailer parking only, and it hopefully will minimize some of the use that happens there that's not for the launch purposes. We have pedestrian access that comes across the road through the introduction of a couple of crosswalks and sidewalks that take folks into the middle of the lot, where they will traverse on a sidewalk and then across another crosswalk, a couple of crosswalks within the lot to make their way to the launch site itself. Immediately adjacent to the launch site will be barrier-free parking spaces for the trailerable lots. That's where our vault toilet will exist, as well as some extra space that additional porta-johns can be placed, if needed during large use weekends. Our project will employ turbidity curtain and filter fabric fencing in order to address soil erosion and sedimentation control concerns, both in the water as well as upland. And our stormwater management will introduce 2 stormwater quality units that will take in water, separate the contaminants from it before discharging that water out to the lake. And then along the shoreline, we will be using a vegetated buffer of native seed and slugs that will be, a buffer between our paved surface and the shoreline. We have allowed space for the future introduction of a boat wash station. I know that's something that folks are very interested in, and the DNR is looking forward to partnering with somebody in the local community to establish a boat wash station at this site. DNR has definitely, done outreach with the local community. Their public meeting last June, actually, they've worked with the township supervisor as well as the road commission, and then the road commission is working also with the Antrim County Sheriff's Office, as well as outreach with neighbors, including North Winds Resorts. And that has introduced some modifications to the plan. Those include the right turn lane, so a designated right turn lane on Cherry Avenue, which you can see has been introduced to the plan in response to some of those conversations. Also, the relocation of the vault toilet a little bit further from the water, a little bit more out of eyesight from the Northwind Resort users. And it's also, allowed discussion as it relates, especially to law enforcement, about, how the parties will all, deal with, any parking concerns or, loitering on the site. It's used for something other than boating access activities. So those conversations are still going on and continuing to work through the process. DNR is considering staffing the site, at least on busy holiday weekends in the initial year. And I think that will help to inform them what kind of staffing will be necessary in future years, since this is kind of an expansion, a different use for the existing site. They're going to have to go through some time and kind of learn what is the most effective, staffing situation and what the site really needs or doesn't need. So I don't know that I stuck to the 10 minutes, but hopefully pretty close.
Yeah, I think you're pretty close. Yeah, thanks for that presentation, Christy. So at this point, we're going to go through a kind of a question and answer session. A couple things to keep in mind. You can submit questions at any time in your Q&A box at the bottom of your screen in your Zoom toolbar. So you'll see that, the Q&A box, or you can click your hand, raised hand icon at the bottom of your screen as well. What that'll do is that'll raise your hand in Zoom, and then we'll call on you. We'll kind of bounce back and forth between the Q&A box and the raised hand icons. And then if you're on the phone, I think there's at least one or two phone-in callers. If you're on the phone and you have a question, you can type #2 on your receiver. And what that will do is that will raise your hand in Zoom as well. And then we can call on you in turn. A couple of things to keep in mind. We'll try to get through as many as we can before we need to move on to the next part of the hearing. And this hearing, or this part of the hearing, is for questions only. If you have a statement that you want to make, hang on to that. The next part that we get into, the hearing part, is where you're going to want to make that statement. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to start with the raised hands. Raised hand, Kenneth Barsky. Looks like your hand is raised. We're going to unmute you on our end. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question when you're ready. You there, Kenneth?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
I was wondering if they are going to have a boat wash station. I know how important it is to the DNR about the clean boats and anything, restrooms, anything like that. That wasn't mentioned.
Okay.
You want me to just go ahead and answer, Ryan, or how do we do this?
Yeah, if you can go ahead and answer.
Okay, so as I mentioned in the presentation, the DNR is interested in partnering with a local community group for the boat wash station. They have space in the plan for it, but they don't operate boat wash stations themselves.
All right. Yeah, thank you,
And
Chris.
then there is a vault toilet. I didn't address that part of the question.
The toilet?
There is a vault toilet, yes.
Okay, gotcha. All right, thank you. All right, so I'm going to go to a couple. Looks like we're getting some questions in the Q&A box trickle in, so I'm going to go ahead and go through a couple of those. And the question is, the rendering showed the site was not that. The rendering showed the site was not Okay, the rendering showed the site was not previously provided. How do we get that? So it looks like somebody's looking for that rendering. Is that available anywhere? I don't know if that was submitted with the permit application. I don't know, Joe or Carrie or.
It was not submitted with the permit application. However, it will be available via this presentation after our public hearing.
Yep, so you can review this presentation. You can do a screen capture as well, once it's posted on our YouTube channel. So that would be one way to do that too. The next question, the proposal called for a cofferdam for pier removal. Is this still the case?
Go ahead, Christy.
We have indicated in our permit application that the contractor may choose to use a cofferdam in his or her means and methods for removing that, the existing pier. We will require a turbidity curtain, but the means and methods for how he goes about removing the pier will be, as determined by the contractor.
Okay, thank you for that, answering that question. The existing site is deteriorated in condition. Are there plans to remediate this area until this project can move forward?
I'm not sure if this is referring to the launch site itself. I'm not aware of any plans to remediate any conditions at the existing launch site.
All right, thank you. Okay, we're gonna go to raise hand. And it looks like we have several that are raised. We'll go through a couple before going back. Mac Whitehouse, we're going to unmute you on our end, and then you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Looks like you're unmuted. You there, Mac?
Yes, I am. Thank you. I attended the meeting last June, and I will make some comments during the public hearing, but it was surprising to me that according to the presentation a year ago, that no one from Beckett and Rader or the DNR had ever been on site during a busy weekend. So my question is this: has that happened in the last year? Because some of this is a little bit in a vacuum without having been there on the 4th of July. I hope somebody has attended the site during a busy weekend. Has that happened?
People from both Beckett and Rader and the DNR have been to the site multiple times, including on busy weekends.
All right. Yeah, thanks for your question, Mac. All right, we're going to move on. Terry Root, your hand is raised. You're unmuted on our end. Feel free to ask your question.
Thank you. I have a couple quick questions. First of all, I'm thinking that with a boat wash, a water well would be drilled then, and I wanted to just know if I was correct on that. Secondly, the security cameras. I've been to many boat launches throughout the state of Florida, fishing all over the state, and most of them have security cameras, and I assume this is going to be a pay-to-launch site as it is now. And I don't see any reason why you shouldn't have cameras there to take pictures of license plates for those people that aren't paying or the people that are acting up. Is there any, anybody can tell me anything about that?
No thoughts?
I haven't heard of any plans for the DNR to put security cameras at this site, but I don't want to speak to the, for the DNR on that topic. So that may be something that the DNR wishes to address specifically.
Okay, yeah, thanks for your question. Did you say you had another one, Terry, or did that?
Yeah, well, I was wondering about the pay to launch. Typically, well, currently there's a pay pipe down there for people to launch their boat. I personally have been down there on a busy weekend watching. It's only a block from my house. I've yet to see anybody put any money in the pipe.
Yeah, I think that would be an operations question that would, best be answered by the DNR.
All right. Yeah, thanks.
And then the water well, is there going to be a water well drilled there?
I would have to defer to the DNR as to what they would do if a boat wash station is implemented. Because of some, contamination concerns on the site, we went to some effort to eliminate the existing wells on the site. So that's the only reason I don't just say outright, yes, there would be a well.
All right. Yeah, thanks. We're going to move on to another question. Thanks, Terry and Christy. So, all right, so next up is Barbara Bordeaux. Barbara, we're going to unmute you on our end. And then you can feel free to unmute yourself, and then you can ask your question. You there, Barbara?
Am I there now?
Oh, yep, we can hear you.
Okay, good. I'm going to try to frame this as a question. And I also just want to thank Mac and Terry because it sounds like they're locals right here on Southwest Torch. And I totally appreciate that. I also was at the meeting in June. Frankly, I was very articulate. I am not in favor of this project at all. I think it's the wrong location for this type of project. I also live on Southwest Torch, and I want to, you know, as I say, I really appreciate Mac and Terry because it's absolutely unfathomable to me that we would give up our precious shoreline, our only available lakefront property, to pave paradise and put up a parking lot. I'm absolutely gobsmacked over it. And ever since this came up last June, I have been I probably go up and down Southwest Torch 5 times a day, morning, late morning, midday, mid-afternoon, evening. I'm always going up and down this street. And I have been keenly watching what goes on at this launch. And I can tell you, except for the 4th of July, now I really had my eyes peeled this July to see how many people were backed up at that launch. Except for the very day on the 4th, I did not see any lines. You know, what really made the change was bringing the sheriffs in here and the cops to regulate.
Barbara, we don't have a lot of time for questions.
Okay. The question is, has anybody brought up any other proposition for this beautiful site that we're giving away to the DNR? No, it just flabbergasts me. I don't get it. These DNR people must not live around here.
I want to get through some more questions, Barbara, so let's have them answer, and then you'll have a time during the public hearing to identify what you want to say.
Yep.
I'm not aware of any other proposals for this site.
Neither is EGLE.
So it's this or nothing? I mean, there were no other ideas thrown around about this precious shoreline location besides a parking lot?
Right.
Seriously?
All right, we're going to have to move on. Thanks for your question, Barbara. And yeah, thanks for answering that. All right, so I'm going to go to, there are a couple I want to make sure that I get in the Q&A box. Is MDNR obligated to follow local zoning ordinances? And if so, how does that impact EGLE's approach to approving or denying the permit?
DNR follows local zoning, and they have been in touch with the local township, and they are following local zoning on this project.
All right, thank you. There's another one on here. It's kind of a long one, but it's, I would like to know if anyone has done a study regarding water traffic at the proposed new boat launch for Torch Lake. There is a choke point for boats going under the bridge to enter or exit Torch Lake into the Torch River. The location of the new boat launch is going to exacerbate that issue. Will there be a lane for the boats being launched to get out of the lake and not allowed to go east directly to the sandbar? In addition, it is dangerous for kayakers going under the bridge with all the boats and the high water current in that area. So I think the question was kind of in the first part of that, if there was a study done related to water traffic.
I'm not aware of a study having been done related to water traffic.
EGLE has not been provided a study related to the traffic either.
Okay. All right. We're at about time. I want to get at least, let's see here, another question in. How far back from the water's edge is the buffer zone? Are there local requirements for homeowners?
There are local requirements for a buffer along the water's edge. I believe that it states 25 feet. but that public parks and recreation areas are exempt from that 25-foot buffer. In much of our site, we are providing that. In some areas, we're short of that, but as we understand, we're exempt from that provision.
All right, thank you, Christy. Yeah, we're at that time in the evening. We're going to have to move on to the hearing portion. If we didn't get to your question or didn't call on you, I'm going to provide some contact info at the end of this hearing tonight, but we want to make sure that everyone has a chance to make a statement during the hearing portion. So we're going to move on here to the next part. All right, but before we do that, I want to make sure that you're aware there are some other ways to submit an official comment in addition to or instead of making a statement tonight. Just so you're aware, you can also make a statement through My Enviro, directly through My Enviro, submission number HPP 1N6X5N5WE, and we're going to put this link in the chat as well. Or by mail, and I know there's some people on the phone, so I'm going to read this off. You can send comments by mail to EGLE, E-G-L-E, Water Resources Division, and that's Gaylord District Office, and the address is 2100 West M32, Gaylord, Michigan, 49735, and the comment period after the public hearing will be open for 10 days, and so that'll be June 11th. All right, so at this point, we're going to kind of roll into the public hearing portion. And with that, I'd like to invite Carrie to read the opening statement for us tonight.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Carrie Kent. As I previously introduced myself, I am the district representative for the Water Resources Division for EGLE. I am the hearings officer for tonight. For this public hearing, submission number HPP 1N6X5N5WE. With me tonight is Joseph Haas, Gaylord District Water Resources Supervisor, and Ryan Blazik, Water Resources Liaison from the Environmental Support Division. To describe how this is going to work tonight, I will begin with some background information. Then we'll discuss the purpose of the hearing and how your comments will be used. Following that, I will outline the procedures under which we will take your comments and then describe what will happen after tonight's hearing. Then it'll be time for you to provide your comments, and we'll spend the majority of the time tonight listening to those comments. At the very end of the hearing, I'll be reading a closing statement. Background information. Water Resources Division is responsible for administering a variety of programs, including to help to protect inland lakes and streams, wetlands, floodplains, sand dunes, and the Great Lakes. These programs regulate certain activities such as dredging or filling a lake, stream, or wetland, constructing a dam, constructing a marina, placing shore protection, constructing docks, and building in designated critical sand dune areas, wetlands, or floodplains. The law governing these responsibilities is the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act, 1994 PA 451 as amended, also known as Act 451. We are here tonight because the Michigan DNR Parks and Recreation Division has proposed to reconfigure and expand the existing Torch River boating access site from 244 linear feet of lakefront to 378 linear feet. The project entails the removal of the existing launch ramp, demolition of an existing concrete pier and lakeside sidewalk, excavation of Torch Lake bottomlands to create a new boat launch ramp, addition of fill material to facilitate on-site parking and pedestrian access within the boating access site, and the creation of an accessible kayak launch. In order for a permit to be granted, EGLE must find that the proposed activities described in the public notice meet certain criteria set by Part 301, Inland Lakes and Streams of Act 451. In general, we must consider the effect of the proposed project on the inland lake and river, so Torch Lake and Torch River. And when reviewing the application for a permit, EGLE is charged to make the following considerations as required by section 301.06 of part 301, which include the following. The department shall issue a permit if it finds that the structure or project will not adversely affect the public trust or riparian rights. 2, the department shall consider possible effects upon the project upon the lake and all connecting waters and the uses of all these waters, including the uses for recreation, fish and wildlife, aesthetics, local government, agriculture, commerce, and industry. The department shall not grant a permit if the proposed project or structure will unlawfully impair or destroy any of the waters or other natural resources of the state. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to give anyone interested in the proposed reconfiguration and expansion of the boating access site an opportunity to provide information that EGLE can use in making the decision whether or not to issue a permit. Please recognize that EGLE can only use the information you provide if it relates to the criteria that EGLE must use in making a decision. Some of you may simply want to express your support or opposition to the project. We'll be happy to make note of your position, but please understand that EGLE is, by law, not allowed to base our decision on whether or not there's widespread support or opposition to the project. In just a moment, I will outline the procedures we will use for taking your comments. Before I do so, I need to mention that the notice of this hearing was published in the Traverse City Record Eagle on May 18th, 2023. As discussed at the beginning of the informational session, if you have a comment to provide, please raise your hand in the Zoom toolbar. To ensure that the hearing is conducted in a fair manner, we will follow the following steps. First, the applicant and/or their consultant has had an opportunity to describe the proposed project. We have already called upon those who indicated that they would like to make a question. We'll do the same thing for those who have indicated that they would like to speak and make a comment. As a reminder, if you are participating in this hearing via telephone only, follow the directions of the moderator on how to identify that you would like to make a comment, which I believe is #2 on your handset. Comments may also be submitted to EGLE via the My Enviro portal or US mail. When the comments have been completed, we will ask if anyone else would like to make a statement. When your name is called, your microphone will be unmuted. As you begin your comments, please state your name and your group or association, if any, that you represent. At this time, due to the number of people we have online, each person will be given 3 minutes to make their comments. We'll indicate when you have approximately a minute left. Please begin wrapping up your comments and end within the allotted time. If need be, we'll indicate when your time has ended. I do ask that we all be courteous and respectful to one another tonight. Please recognize that EGLE staff here are here tonight to provide a fair opportunity for you to express your comments on the proposed project and to listen to those comments. This hearing is being recorded. Your comments will be a part of the information that EGLE will consider in making its decision on whether or not to issue a permit for the proposed project. The public comment period for this hearing is open for 10 days from the date from today, ending on June 11th, 2023. Additional information, comments should be submitted in writing during this 10-day public comment period, and which will also be considered for EGLE's decision. Following the close of the comment period, EGLE will make a decision to either issue a permit for the project as proposed or with modifications, or send a letter of denial. You may find what the decision is by checking our My Enviro portal website and searching for application number HPP1N6X5N5WE. Thank you for your attention. We'll begin calling names of those who have indicated that they would like to make a statement.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. As Carrie mentioned, I have a list of names during registration of 19 people who indicated they wanted to make a comment. And so we'll get through those 19. And then anybody else may raise your hand. This list is up to date as of 3:30. So if you registered after 3:30, you can raise your hand. And also, as Carrie mentioned, if you're on the phone, when we get to the raised hand, you can select #2 to raise your hand and we'll call on you. Everyone will have 3 minutes. Also, just to let you know, everybody will have an opportunity to make a statement. It'll be one statement per person to make everything fair and to make sure we're able to get through everybody. If you're on the phone or logged in and there's someone else on the line with you when you get called on that would also like to make a statement, just let me know that, and then they can get on the line and state their name and make their statement. So with that, I'll start with some names. I'll identify the person who is up to make a statement and the person after that so that they're aware that they're up next. So first up is Sue Kelly. So Sue, we're going to unmute you, and then after Sue is Terry Root. And again, Sue, you have 3 minutes. I'll give you a 1 minute heads up before your time's up, and then I'll let you know when time's up. You can begin when you're ready.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, my name is Sue Kelly. I live in the area, and I completely disagree with the concept of waiting for the local community to install a boat wash station. This needs to be done now in the initial development of this project. It should not wait and be held back because the DNR doesn't, quote, operate a boat wash. It's always more cost effective to do the construction at the origination of a project versus having it as an add-on down the road. Boaters can wash their boats without a DNR operator, and most would. Aquatic invasives are a problem now, not down the road. They're a problem in this lake. They're a problem in the river. They're a problem in the bayou and the adjoining lakes in the lower chain. This launch is at the mouth of Torch River. Invasives will head downriver and impact all those other waters in the entire lower chain. This delay is completely contradictory to the EGLE website, which clearly identifies invasive species and invasive aquatic plants as a significant threat to our waters. I encourage you to do the right thing. Take another look and at the very least, add a boat wash station to this site now. You are currently issuing permits to put chemicals and pesticides in the water to control invasives. This should not be the ongoing long-term approach. Let's go after the cause rather than treating the symptoms. It's more cost effective that way. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thanks for your comment, Sue. All right, so next up is Terry Root, and after Terry is Thomas Joseph. So Terry, it looks like you're unmuted. You can begin your statement when you're ready.
Okay, thank you very much. And thanks for hearing us out tonight. I have just a couple of quick comments. One being I'm native here in this area. I've lived around the lake all my life. I've seen a lot of changes in the last 25 years. And one of the things that I am opposed to issuing a permit primarily because of the contaminated soil that's under the pit stop. I know there's several documented spills. There's hydraulic fluid laying on the water table down there. And I'm curious to know when this dirt is disturbed and we get a rainstorm, how much of this pollution is going to end up in the lake and down the river. I've seen it happen over my lifetime. I know the spills occurred. They are documented by the DNR, and I would hope that EGLE would take that into consideration prior to issuing any permits. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for your comment, Terry. All right, so next up is Thomas Joseph, and after Thomas, Anna McLashan. So Thomas, you're unmuted. You can begin when you're ready.
Thank you, and thank you for allowing us the opportunity to provide some comments. I also am a long-term resident here on Torch Lake. I'm closer to the north end, but all of the waters are connected within the entire watershed. I also am speaking on behalf of the Torch Lake Protection Alliance. We provided our comments in writing. In fact, Christy Summers, if she's still listening, has heard our comments a couple of times because we provided them directly to her as well. I'd like to reinforce and support everything that Sue Kelly has said about the boat wash station. In the invasive species is a problem in the entire watershed, one that we have addressed on a volunteer basis with a great cost. We have to make sure that we don't exacerbate that problem anymore. So we believe that EGLE is in a position to take and require a revision to the plans so that the facilities, the water source and the drainage management of a boat wash station is provided in the plans. And we hope that that can in fact be done. The second item, and I submitted a question so that I don't take up the time, and I did not get an answer, is the vault toilet that's in the plans. I submitted a question of what the capacity is. If I assume that the capacity of the vault toilet is 1,000 gallons, I don't think it is understood what the usage could possibly be. Torch Lake Protection Alliance has funded additional porta potties for years over the 4th of July week. Let me give you some numbers to go by. Last year, 2022, Gamosier, the company that pumps out the systems, the porta potties, did a pump out of 11 porta potties that are stationed throughout the area near the bridge.
You have 1 minute left, Thomas.
Thank you. Make it short. They pumped 660 gallons in 4 days. So if you're going to provide a vault toilet of 1,000 gallons, that vault toilet's going to be needing more pump outs than what it makes it cost effective. Someone needs to re-examine the effects on the air quality of the vault toilet, the possible ground contamination of the vault toilet, unless it's overly managed from a pump out station. It was really a very bad choice. Vault toilets are meant for remote locations. We are not remote. Please reconsider that choice. I was also shocked to hear that the buffer zone is exempt for being DNR and park cities. When you're dealing with 300.
You're at 3 minutes, Thomas, so please wrap your comments up.
All right, I'd like EGLE to take and review the exemption of the shoreline buffer zone requirement on 378 feet of frontage on our lake. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comments, Thomas. All right, next up is Anna McGlashan, and then after Anna is Gary Doty. And it looks like Gary may be on. There's a Peggy Doty. We're gonna unmute Peggy and see if Gary's there. All right, so Anna, you're up next. You can begin when you're ready. It looks like you're unmuted.
All right, if you can hear me, I'll get going here.
Yep, we can hear you.
Perfect. All right, thank you for holding the hearing this evening, and thank you to Christy Summers for being here to answer questions. It's greatly appreciated. My name is Anna McGlashan, and I'm the new local policy manager at the Tip of the Mitt Watershed Council. And after reviewing the permit application, the Watershed Council recommends denial of the permit as proposed because the disruption to aquatic resources is unacceptable, feasible and prudent alternatives exist, and the proposed project, if I understand it correctly, is currently in violation of local zoning ordinances. To highlight some of the primary issues of concern, which is starting with the impact to the public trust and the environment. Recreational boating can easily spread aquatic invasive species, so the improved access site should include equipment at the very beginning of its operation to decontaminate boats, trailers, and related equipment. A permanent boat wash station should be included to the proposal prior to issuing the permit. Secondly, the proposed project would direct stormwater almost directly into Torch Lake, as it does not include sufficient stormwater infrastructure to minimize runoff. Regarding the impact of Milton Township zoning ordinances, I'm aware that DNR does have some flexibility under those ordinances. However, the ordinance's plain language indicates that a shoreline protection strip must be established using new vegetation native to the Great Lakes region, and long grasses shall not qualify as natural vegetative cover. So although the dimensions of the shoreline protection strip appear to be variable and under and allowed some flexibility, I do not believe that they are allowed to remove that requirement for the shoreline protection strip. And therefore, if you're going to issue this permit, I believe that there needs to be language or a prior action to require that shoreline protection strip. And there's also language
And
in
1
there.
minute left, Anna.
Sounds good. I'm almost done. There's also a requirement for property owners to obtain a permit for such work.
Oh, looks like we might have lost Anna. All right, hopefully she calls back. Let's see here. All right, we were gonna have to move on. Looks like we lost her completely. All right, next up, we have Gary Doty. We're gonna unmute. We have a couple Peggies, it looks like. So I got two Peggies. Doty's unmuted. And then after that, Linda Spevacek. So it looks like we have one. Gary, are you there?
I am, yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we can hear you. You can begin your comment when you're ready.
My name is Gary Doty. I'm a 30-year resident of Milton Township. I've been a licensed mechanical contractor and licensed builder for 40 years. I do not design marinas or boat ramps, but I do know how to read blueprints, review specifications, interpret legends and conditions as they relate to the plans. Yesterday, I emailed an 8-page review of this project to Matt Lincoln, Christy Summers, Casey Klein, and Stephanie Brzezinski. I'm asking that my review be made public. The review outlines issues and concerns for this project that have not been addressed by the MDNR or the engineer Beckett and Rader. Here are a few bullet points contained in the review. The last 11 pages of the plans are site plan questions by MDNR to the engineer Beckett and Rader. In all of the 11 pages, there's absolutely no mention of how the plan will address traffic flow, if a traffic study will be required, and at what time of year. No mention of increased parking on surrounding streets for vehicles and trailers, increased pedestrian traffic and safety, congestion at the 4-road intersection leading to the site, first responder response time, and how any and all of these issues will be managed and controlled. Vehicles with boats and trailers will be converging on the site from the north, west Torch Lake, east Crystal Beach, west Cherry Avenue, and there will also be residential traffic coming out of Torch River Road from the south. 3 minutes is not enough to describe the multiple problems with the traffic flow in and out of the site. Examples are contained in my review. All vehicle and trailer parking on the site are vehicles first, trailers behind in an angle that is against the flow of traffic when you leave. Parking spots, once parking spots are full, those vehicles that have parked are locked in until somebody lets them out. Why would anyone design a site with front-loaded parking that requires backing out into the opposite flow of traffic? The answer is because that is the only way.
1 minute left, Gary.
The only way it can make it work on a piece of property that's too small for what they're trying to squeeze in. It makes no sense. Water quality concerns have not been addressed. It's unfathomable that a boat cleaning station is not included in the plans. State of Michigan, MDNR, lake associations, universities, and state parks are all recommending, explaining the importance of, and in the process of adding boat cleaning stations to reduce the spread of invasive species. I'm going to run out of time, but I'm going to tell you, if you read my 8-page report or review, there's no room on this site plan to add a boat cleaning station. The site is too small for it. The only way you would be able to do it is to take parking away, which is going to push more cars out into the adjacent streets. And it's also going to slow down traffic in and out of that site. There's a lot of problems with egress and ingress to that site and traffic coming from 3 different directions. It's going to be a disaster. I was at the first meeting at myself.
You're at 3 minutes, Gary. It'd be great if you could wrap it up.
Yeah. Well, my concern. I was at the review like Mac Whitehouse. I asked the guy that was there that night. I said, "Have you ever been to the 4th of July to Torch River or to Torch Lake?" He said, "No." I said, "Where do you live?" He said, "Gaylord." I said, "Have you ever been here at all?" He said, "No." That's a problem when
Gary,
people really don't.
We're going to have to move on to the next person. I'm going to also provide the contact information for additional comments in case you want to provide those in writing at a later point. But thank you for your comment. All right. Next up, I have, oops. I have Linda Spivacek, but it looks like I also have a John. So John, you're unmuted. Are you there, Linda? Are you speaking for, or John? Are you speaking for Linda?
Yeah, can you hear me? This is John. This is
Okay.
John. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for holding this hearing. And I'm glad that we're talking about the boat wash station. I agree it needs to be done right from the get-go, not add on later. But I am also concerned about the traffic, and what I suspect, you'll have DNR personnel at the launch itself helping to facilitate boats getting into the water. But I think we're going to need traffic control on the streets as well obviously during the 4th of July weekend, but on other heavy weekends during the summer. So that means it's either Antrim County Sheriff or perhaps state police. I believe you're going to have a lot of traffic here and will need traffic control on the streets. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comment. All right. Next up is we have Brian Hayes, but we don't have a Brian Hayes on the line with us today. It appears. So if you're Brian Hayes or on the phone, please raise your hand and we'll eventually get to you. Then it's Nancy Schreiber, followed by Mary Scarnolis. So Nancy, we're going to find you in the audience and unmute you.
Hey, Ryan, there's no Nancy.
No Nancy.
Or Mary either.
Okay. All right. So Cecilia Schaefer.
I'm not seeing Cecilia either here today.
Kenneth Barsky. I know Kenneth was on before. So Kenneth, we're going to unmute you. And then you can make your statement. And after Kenneth is Diana Smith. Is Kenneth still on?
Yeah, I don't see Kenneth either on.
He must have gotten off. Or Diana Smith, and then after Diana is Marilyn Conchel. Diana, it looks like you're on there. You're unmuted on our end. You can unmute yourself and begin when you're ready.
Thank you so much. And I also have Nicholas Smith that will be speaking after me, if that's okay.
Okay, yep, absolutely.
Okay, I'm Diana Smith and I'm the co-owner of Northwind Resort, and I have a few issues with the application. First issue I have is the applicant proposes grading 464 square feet of sidewalk area to stabilize the shoreline in front of an existing retaining wall. They also are proposing placing 17 cubic yards of rock along with 58 linear feet of shoreline for further stabilization. The other proposal they're having is they're adding 5 cubic yards of gravel and soil fill into Torch to create a walk-in kayak launch. This will give it 20 feet wide and 8 feet lakeward. My issue with all of this is how are they planning on moving and removing all of this soil, rock, and with what equipment? The removal process could impact our soil at Northwind, retaining wall, and foundation, because all of the proposed changes are so close to our Northwind property. Also, sand is more likely to be blown around our property in customers' boats and customers' hair and clothes, towels, our rooms, patio, barbecues, toys, all of this creating very unhappy customers and maybe non-returning customers. The second issue I have is their plan also shows the 22 plus parking spots, and these vehicles are so close to the water that it not only will cause a huge eyesore and noise issue for our paying customers, and maybe even a bigger theft concern. We realize that big construction projects are a source of sediment pollution. These parking locations are so close to the water, the vehicles will stockpile sand, gravel, soil, and all the other elements they already talked about, which will slope into the water, causing a big source of sediment pollution. They should be located far enough away from Torch Lake.
1 minute left, Diana.
They cannot wash into our beautiful lake during big storms and high winds. And as a wrap up, and the owner of Northwind Resort on January 24th, I contacted Matthew Lincoln of the DNR and let him know we had lots of concerns with their plan. We did target and have a meeting on February 17th. The DNR and Northwind personnel were there to discuss concerns. Matt Lincoln had originally sent his one-page schematic for a review before the meeting, and we also had our own document prepared after looking at theirs, really showing impact on our customers and our longstanding viable commercial business. I'm planning on attaching this document for further input into the EGLE system. I believe it captures many of the potential issues and concerns.
And you're at 3 minutes, Diana. If you could please wrap up.
And Northwind has, with the proposed plan, besides those issues falling within the EGLE guidelines. I thank you for all your consideration to my concerns. And here's Nicholas.
Hello guys, thank you once again for being here. I'm Nicholas Smith, and I have a vested interest through my grandmother, who is one of Northwind owners. After checking with my dad, who has been in the construction business for nearly 40 years and has had lots of familiarity with how job sites are done and how heavy equipment and machinery affect surrounding soils and foundations, I want to share my family's issues with this application. Number one being the removal of the existing concrete jetty. Removal of a large water intake and concrete pier poses environmental challenges. Would they use hydro demolition or jetting, which is discouraged because it can disturb wildlife? In addition to disturbances to wildlife, the concrete wall borders are very close to the concrete patio foundation at Northwind Resort, just north of the permitted area. Running heavy equipment and pulling out large concrete pieces can cause vibrations and allow the soil to shift, which in turn can alter and affect the foundation and soils under and around the concrete patio at Northwind Resort. Number two, on a more personal notes, my family and our friends have been going to Torch Lake during the summer months for over 20 years, and I've seen all kinds of good things and some bad things as well throughout the years. One in particular to note is the lake brings in lots of party goers, especially during the 4th of July, which has been stated. And with those party goers comes lots of drinking and a lot of poor behavior. Common denominator is boat access, and having the new boat launch site with lots of parking and areas to hang out will make an unwanted location for residents and renters at Northwind Resort dealing with the partiers. We've been going to Northwind for over 25 years now, and having the mayhem associated with party goers moved to just a few feet from an area where our elderly and young children sit to relax on the patio or calmly wade or play in shallow waters, I believe will increase the risk associated with the party atmosphere by tenfold. And finally,
1 minute left, Nicholas.
Yep, just wrapping up. And 2 years ago, there was a shooting at the boat launch ramp. And so I believe that the safety will be lowered significantly with the addition of this new launch. And thank you guys for hearing me out.
Yeah, thanks for your comments. Right. Next up is Marilyn Conkle or Conchal. And then after Marilyn is Christy Summers. So Marilyn, looks like you're unmuted on our end. You can begin when you're ready.
Thank you. Marilyn Conchal, owner of Northwind Resort for almost 1/4 of a century. We are right next door to the proposed new launch site. While anyone can readily recognize that dramatically expanding the current launch site will also exponentially expand the amount of water traffic, watercraft, people, and animals on beautiful Torch Lake, all bringing huge amounts of waste, sediment, and perhaps even invasive creatures on their person, watercraft, and trailers from faraway states to taint these pristine waters, that same recognition may not expand to the effects such additional traffic and pollution will also have on the landside portion of the launch site before people even make it onto Torch Lake. Hence my main concern, congestion, congestion, congestion. My primary concern with the proposed Torch River boating access site has to do with the location of the ingress and the egress lanes. As an owner of Northwind Resort, the closest adjoining property to the new launch site, I know best our needs and those of our customers entering and exiting our business property on a daily basis during our season via our one and only entranceway, also off of Southwest Torch Lake Drive, our common street. While I somewhat understand the rationale for considering revising the launch site main entranceway from Cherry Street onto Southwest Torch Lake Drive, the logic escapes me as to why the entranceway and exitway is planned in such a way that will also adversely impact my little business located right next door. So at Northwind, we have 9 units. During check-in and checkout time, anywhere from 1 to 9 units may be checking in and or checking out.
You have 1
often
minute
at the
left,
same time.
Marilyn.
I beg your pardon?
Oh, you just have 1 minute left.
I have a solution. Reverse the entranceways, make the in and out, reverse them, vice versa. Obviously, this will not prevent major congestion problems, but it will surely help a lot. Less congestion. It will be a win-win for all of our involved parties, especially Northwind Resort. You're good neighbors. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your comments. All right, next up, Christy Summers and then Nicholas Smith. Looks like, oh, Nicholas already spoke. Gotcha. Christy, did you have anything you wanted to say, or did you just sign up because you were presenting?
I just signed up because I was.
Okay. Just wanted to confirm. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so next is Mark Woodward, followed by Dolly Ward. So,
There's no Mark Woodward here today, Brian.
okay, gotcha. Do we have Dolly on the line? And then after Dolly, it would be David Conlon. Yep, Dolly, it looks like you are unmuted. You can begin when you're ready.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dolly Ward, and I'm one of the owners of Northwind Resort. And Northwind Resort is the very first building directly located north of the proposed new DNR launch site. Our business will be affected, and probably negatively, by the noise alone associated with boat launching and gathering of many people throughout all times of the day and the night. One of my main concerns was with the vault toilet system. And I thank Thomas for his comments on that. The vault, they use these type of systems when a regular standard toilets are not available because there's no water line. So the DNR is proposing that the new site would have this toilet on it, but it never said how big the toilet was going to be or how many gallons it's going to hold. 750, 1,000, or 1,300 gallon unit. But either way, I disagree with this. I think this will negatively affect us because odors are inevitable. The VTS systems are known for harsh smells that emanates from the facility with continued use. There are ways to manage odors, but you cannot eliminate bad smells. If not designed properly, faulty ventilation can cause disgusting odors. Ammonias and gases from decomposition of human waste can cause unbearable smells alongside trash people put into the VTS systems. And wind is necessary to carry away the stench. If no wind, that stench stays around the toilet and may spread to nearby structures, my business, and my customers. They do not come to Torch Lake for those smells, that's for sure. You cannot move the waste tank under the vault. If it leaks, you have to seal it off and you have to rebuild. That costs money. It's routine maintenance involved and an infrastructure that deals with waste management. It also requires servicing. Cleaning chemicals are used for sanitation, and waste must be removed by a servicing company. A VTS is operable only as long as there is routine maintenance. So how often will these VTS be emptied? And what is the planned maintenance?
1 minute
schedule?
left, Dolly.
Thank you. A full tank is, the toilet is unusable. So anyways, the VTS plans to place the toilet too close to North Wind and will affect our business and our customers with a constant flow of people, traffic, watercrafts, noises, smells, etc. Why place the VTS so close to the beautiful waters of Torch Lake? I understand they moved it some, but they moved it probably 5 feet away. It's disgusting. Risking contamination from chemicals required to keep it workable. If the DNR's goal is to reroute traffic flow, allowing quicker and easier watercraft launching, why place the facility on site at all? It encourages people to hang around. VTS is public, used by anyone. My suggestion was to relocate it to the overflow lot off of Torch River Road. This will keep
And
traffic
you're at time,
moving.
Dolly. Please wrap up your comments.
I will. This will keep the traffic moving by the launch site and create a healthier environment for business owners, our customers, and our neighbors. With that said, I am not in favor of this new boat launch. It will not resolve traffic flow issues, but create new and different ones for our businesses, our customers, and our neighbors. You are fooling yourself if you think otherwise. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dolly.
for your time. You're welcome.
All right, so now we don't have, our next person was David Conlon, but it doesn't look like David is on the line. So if you have not yet made a comment and you'd like to make a comment, please click the raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen. That will raise your hand in Zoom. If you're on the phone, you are welcome to select #2 on your receiver. That will also raise your hand in Zoom and will call on you by the last 4 digits of the number that you're calling in. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started with our raised hands. And the first one up is Dan Packer. So Dan, you're unmuted on our end. Feel free to begin when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I live within about 1,000 feet of the proposed boat ramp, and personally, I'm not opposed to the project. I think worse things could go into that property than an open space boat ramp. But I do have a couple of issues, and one is with the lack of a permanent boat wash. It sounded from the presentation like they intend to collaborate with some local community group over for a boat wash, and that sounds to me kind of like a weekend fundraiser kind of event, when in fact what we need is a permanent facility that's integrated into the design of the site that everybody can use whenever they're in and out of the ramp throughout the entire season. So that's my comment on the boat wash. We need a permanent facility on site. We also need a stormwater retention system. Now, I believe it was mentioned that stormwater was going to be collected, the solids were going to be filtered out of it, and then it was going to be dumped into Torch Lake at that point. But that doesn't address the toxic chemicals that we all know are in stormwater runoff. As soon as it hits the pavement, it runs off oil, tar, whatever happens to be, but they're toxic, and those are going to be dumped into Torch Lake. And those should not be dumped into Torch Lake. We've all witnessed the decreasing water quality of the lakes around there. And what we need is an on-site retention system for the stormwater, so it can go into the holding pond or whatever it is, filter through the ground, and then it will disperse itself into the groundwater, hopefully removing those toxic chemicals as well as the solids. And the boat wash should be integrated into that system to collect the toxic chemicals, whatever are coming off the boat.
You have one minute left, Dan.
As well as the invasive species. So the benefits, it may cost a couple of parking sites from the project site plan to do that, but the benefits to the environment would be priceless. And that's the end of my comment. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for your comment. All right, next up is Mac Whitehouse. Mac, you're unmuted on our end. You can begin when you're ready.
Thank you again for holding this hearing. And I have 3 quick comments, 2 of which relate directly to the DNR, to EGLE. The other, unfortunately, has been brought up, but is not directly related to this hearing. But the first is the boat wash. I don't think that you can justify building this project without the boat wash being built into the design. Otherwise, it's going to be half-assed and it's not going to work particularly well. The second, as the previous speaker addressed, was the control of the stormwater. And that it's ironic that the public should have to push for better stormwater control. The one that is not directly related to EGLE, but is a great deal of concern to me is the traffic and congestion. This design was nicely done. Unfortunately, it was done in a vacuum. It's unchanged from what it was before anyone came out to the site. And indeed, last June, it was said that nobody had visited the site on a congested day. So right now, Cherry's congested. Nobody would disagree with that. But the Cherry Southwest Torch Lake Drive drive intersection is not as congested. The congestion's back over the bridge. This design is going to move the congestion to that intersection, and it's going to increase traffic up and down Southwest Torch Lake Drive. I see nothing in the plan, and no one has explained anything about preferred traffic patterns. And it was mentioned that the egress and ingress are sort of flipped, but I think that's going to make for a tremendous amount of traffic congestion at that intersection, which increases problems with safety. And Cherry,
1 minute left, Mike.
okay, thank you. Cherry at least it's a wider road and there are areas to park on the side. Southwest Torch Lake Drive is narrow. There's no room to walk safely. And if traffic increases there, I think that's going to be a significant issue. So the design really can't move forward without reconsidering traffic implications and desired traffic flow. We need a stoplight there. And it's great to say they're talking to the sheriff, but if you talk to the sheriff, he doesn't have adequate staffing. So it's great to sound like something might happen, but I think that's faulty reasoning. So thank you very much. I appreciate you listening.
Yeah, thanks for your comments. All right, I've got Thomas Joseph. Thomas, it looks like you've already gone, but if you have someone else in the line, we can take a comment. Otherwise, we won't be able to take additional comment from you. All right, looks like you're unmuted. Do you have someone else on the line, Thomas?
No, but I spoke first on behalf of TLPA. I'd like to speak as an individual if it's okay.
We can't, it's one per individual,
Okay.
but you will be able to speak or provide additional comments afterwards.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you, Thomas. All right, so next up is Sharon Hill. All right, so Sharon, you can begin when you're ready.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief here. I had notes concerning the boat wash, as many do, that really is a requirement day one. Adequate bathroom facilities are concerns in so many ways. The traffic on the adjoining streets, many people have spoke very clearly to that. I want to re-mention the buffer zone, because I had my own personal experience with maintaining my seawall, where Gary, required a buffer zone, Antrim Conservation District in Milton Township. That Milton Township went so far as to ask me what plants were being planted and what the spacing of my native plants were going to be to just maintain my existing seawall. So it seems ironic that the agency that's requiring, that kind of a buffer zone would not have that as a requirement as part of their own plan. And I heard the comments that they're exempt, but it still doesn't make much sense that buffer zone wouldn't be reinforced as required for other landowners. And then I really want to speak, as I don't think anyone has spoke to the traffic in the water. I live on Birch River, and so I go through that very congested area. There are days when there are boats, 5 across, trying to get into the, and under the bridgeway there. It is a significant challenge with the boats and the boat, sorry, I got a dry throat. The boat trying to get through that area. So the congestion on the water compounded not only by the number of boats, but by the current that's happening in that area. And many of the folks coming to the area just aren't familiar with that current. So I can't tell you the number of accidents and near misses that we've seen in that area. And then kind of speaking to the aspect of safety, the current
one
boat
minute
launch,
left, Sharon.
just about done. The current boat launch is where kind of safety headquarters is on busy holiday weekends. That's where the ambulance is. I can't tell you the number of people that have had to be taken from the sandbar directly to an ambulance. And so you need to be aware that the current facility, and I would hope the new boat launch facility would maintain that safety of having a place that the ambulance can take folks in need. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comment. All right, next up is Barbara Bordeaux. Barbara, you're unmuted on our end. Feel free to unmute yourself and begin when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, I'll try to be very short. One of the first and most important things I want to say is a big thank you to all my neighbors for showing up tonight and for being so astute with your comments. I really, really appreciate it. Especially Sue, Terry, Thomas, the builder guy that his name showed up as Peggy. I'm not sure of his name, but for all you guys who are going to bat for our lake, keeping it healthy and clean. I just thank you very, very much for that. I agree with all of you. The congestion, of course, this really comes down to a quality of life. That's what it's about for the lake and for the people who live here. And I just don't see the perk, I know. So I can't speak to the health of the lake because I just don't have the expertise as my neighbors do. But I can speak to the quality of life in general. With all that traffic in that location, oh no. Oh, just for large boats from downstate, what is the perk for the locals here? There are so many other sites that this type of thing could go, except for right there at Southwest Torch. I don't see the long-term vision. It just more and more and more pollution and congestion. I just feel very strongly there's a better site for this to solve this problem. And I think this type of solution for the problem is not the answer. It's not going to solve the problem. It's only going to create new problems. So I thank everybody for showing up and just for being very concerned about the health of our lake and our quality of life here. And for some reason, I don't get, I mean, I think what I'm going to start doing is taking photographs of that launch and the congestion or non-congestion. And
Yeah,
maybe I'll have a
one
photo
minute left, Barbara.
documentary to show people what's really going on there, because the DNR people aren't showing up to see what's happening here. Thank you very much to everybody.
Yeah, thanks for your comment. All right, Dr. Mary Robinson, you're unmuted on our end. You can begin when you're ready. Are you there, Mary? Looks like you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. All right, we'll give you a minute to figure out your audio issue. In the meantime, I have John Spevacik and Linda, who are both John has gone before. Is this Linda?
This is Mary Robinson.
Yeah, hi, I'm here. John spoke during my
turn. All right, we're gonna let Mary go first, and then we'll go to the next caller.
Thank you so much. Hi, this is Dr. Robinson. One thing I have not heard yet tonight, but I have noted working with the school district, there are bus drop-offs twice a day in the morning and at night for 187 days a year. And having children and youth running around boat trailers and cars and trucks that are going and coming on that overflow lot is nothing but a safety concern. And anybody else that's sitting in their truck, you don't know. who these are. And just for the safety of the children that we have for Elk Rapids Public Schools, this is an important consideration. There is an average of 40 students that are dropped off in the morning and picked up, and then there's another 40 to 60 based on sports activities and schedules in the afternoon. So this is an important thing to consider for that overflow lot. Thank you.
All right, thanks for your comment, Mary. All right, so I have John Spevacik unmuted. Is who's on John's line right now? Do you have a comment that you haven't made one?
Yeah, it's Linda, his wife, because he
Okay.
spoke during my turn. I'm just gonna follow up on what he said. So I
Okay.
just wanted to make sure that people listening understand that what John said about we're going to need, and we see it every weekend during the summer, we see extra sheriff and police and going up and down the roads in Clearwater and Milton Township. And the sheriff's already unable to staff the existing positions that they need. And the citizens need to know that Clearwater and Milton will be footing the bill for any additional sheriffs and police requirements during all of these weekends or whatever else days. And I just don't think that that's fair for a state facility, for the local citizens to fund something that they don't even want. And that's my comment. Thank you.
All right, yeah, thank you for your comment, Linda. All right. Anybody else who would like to make a comment who hasn't already? It looks like I have Peggy has a raised hand, and Gary, I think, made a comment before on Peggy's account. Are you there, Peggy, or who would like to make a comment?
I am here.
Okay.
I just have one comment to make when we're talking about adding or expanding this boat launch. Is I don't understand. There's a perfectly good boat launch on Arwood Drive, 2 short miles away from the Torch River Bridge. It has a large parking lot. There's no current on the river. It's never very busy or anytime we've been there. So why within 2 miles do we need another boat launch that has so many negative issues? That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Peggy. All right, is there anybody else? We'll give it another couple of seconds to allow anyone else who might want to make a comment to decide if they want to raise their hand. So if you do, again, and you're on the phone, select #2 to raise your hand in Zoom and we'll call on you. If you're haven't made a comment before and you're on the line virtually, raise your hand. You'll see the hand icon on the bottom of your screen, and that'll raise your hand in Zoom and we'll call on you so you can make your comment. If we don't get further comments at this point, what we'll do is we're going to go through the other ways that you can make a comment. If you ran out of time or have something additional that you want to add, we'll go through that again. And then also we'll give you some contact information for any follow-up questions. So with that, I'm still not seeing any other raised hands. And so, Carrie, I'd like to invite you to read the closing statement for tonight's hearing.
I can find the unmute button. Thank you tonight for your comments and cooperation. We appreciate your interest in the proposed project and that you took the time to be here tonight. As indicated at the beginning of the hearing, you may submit additional written comments until June 11th, 2023. Following the close of the public comment period, we'll consider all comments received and make a decision on the proposed project. Just to remind those that may still want to submit a comment, comments may be submitted through the My Enviro portal or by US mail. The hearing is now closed. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. And for those on the phone, you can do it by mail to EGLE Water Resources Division, the Gaylord District Office, 2100 West M32, Gaylord, Michigan 49735, or through our My Enviro system submission HPP 1N6X 5N5WE. And again, the comment period is open for 10 days, which is June 11th. And again, here's Carrie's contact information as promised. Carrie Kent, Environmental Quality Analyst. Carrie's phone number for those on the phone is 989-619-2443. Or you can reach Carrie at kentkk4@michigan.gov. That's KENTK 4 at Michigan, michigan.gov. And with that, I want to see, Joe, do you have any closing comments for us tonight?
Yes, thanks, Ryan, and thanks everyone for taking the time to be actively involved in this hearing. Public involvement is a priority for EGLE. Your participation is very important to us, particularly when it comes to protecting our shared natural resources. We work and review these resources in the same neighborhoods that you live in, but we do not spend every day there. And we recognize, value, and appreciate your local knowledge. As local citizens, you know best the patterns, the rhythms, and the dynamics of your local landscape. Any observant local knows more than any visiting scientist. I would stand by that statement. Your public comments are an important part of making sure our review of the proposed project is thoroughly and appropriately reviewed. Thanks again for your participation and your comments. We appreciate that you've shown an interest in this proposed application for a permit by taking the time to attend this hearing. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for those comments, Joe, and thanks to you, Carrie, and all of you on the line for being part of this process and for asking such great questions in the Q&A session. With that, I hope you all have a great rest of your evening. Thank you.